Now we're going to understand what the concept of Galut Mitzrayim is. What's Galut Mitzrayim? Okay, now basically the Shefa didn't go down into the Shvatim. Therefore, there wasn't the Or Panim that was Meir in the Shtalshlus. It went back up to the Arif Anpin. And in the Arif Anpin is where Paro's Shoris is from. And therefore, Paro now takes the Shefa straight to the Achorayim. And therefore, we have to receive the Shefa through Paro, and then we become servants to Paro. What's going on? This is the meaning of Mitzrayim, Galut Mitzrayim, which is the meaning of Meitzar Yam, the restriction of water. I'm giving a shit. Okay, Hayu Avadim the Paro, we were servants of Paro, as it says in the Pri Etz Chaim. Don't talk in the room now, okay? Yeah, it's even now. Okay, now we're servants, but it says that the Jewish people were at a level of katnut, of ibur, of za, be'ima. Okay, smallness of the ibur, of zer'ant and ima. This is the meaning of Meitzar Yam, of chokhmah. What does that mean? When you have a concept of pregnancy in physical sense, that what's the pregnancy? That the blood, the infant, his head is between his knees, and he's bent over, and he eats whatever his mother eats. Okay, pirush mekupal. What does it mean that he's mekupal? That he's folded. Shemochin shelo chabad nelnim bechagas v'nehi. His moichin are hidden inside of his emotions and his nehi, netzachod yesod, which is literally the state where the brain is in between the knees. V'shehem ha'yerchayim b'china takatnut kanoida v'kachu b'china takatnut midos, and this is the concept of small midos. Ka'asher mitzum tzamim v'ne'alamnim b'seichel, that when the midos are mitzumtzam and hidden inside of your seichel in a way of ibur. Okay, that's what it means that the child eats what the mother eats, which is the Indian of katdus moichin of ima, which is all their mashal hitpalu tamirot avavira. It's basically when a person has love and fear of Hashem through his contemplation. Kasher hema klulim adayin beit baranut, when they're still included in the contemplation itself, and they don't get born in a revealed way in his heart. So basically that's the state of katnus. Basically you're trying to think, when you're thinking about Hashem's greatness, and you don't feel any emotions come out of it, then that means they're not being born. So it's meaning that they're still impregnated in your mind. Therefore the midos that you created are still in a state of katnus within the moichin. They're not even felt in your mind at all. It's only that your mind tells you that because of your understanding of the situation, it's proper that you should love Hashem because you're contemplating His greatness. He doesn't actually have any av and yira. Even in the mind, love and fear in the mind, in an intellectual way, doesn't even have that. Just that his seichel gives and forces that this should be the case. This is love and fear that are hidden in the mind and are included in it. This is the concept of the mem stuma, the closed off mem. Just like the mem is closed off from all sides, so to the light of the chokhmah, which from chokhmah is the main place to give birth to the midas of av and yira. Like we know the tipa of the zachar that gives birth. And the inside the nukva, then it spreads into the different limbs. Hina calls man ha'ibur she'ochel havlad kol ma she'imo ochelet. So as the child is inside the mother, so whatever the mother eats, the child eats automatically. Satum or v'koch toldot amirat b'chinat or chochmah bina. So the light and the power of the midos are closed off into the aura of the chokhmah and bina, ובחינת המידות שכבר יצאו מכוח המוליד, the chokhmah stumim hema v'ne'almim bebina. Whatever came out of chokhmah gets stuck in bina, as it says in another place. And this is the Indian of ibur za and ima. Al kem nikra bina az mem stuma. Therefore, the bina is called the closed off mem. V'chinat hitgalut hitpalut hamidot. And when you have a revelation of your midos, when they come out and they get revealed by themselves in their own existence, ki'inu ein lahem makor hamolid. It's as if they don't have a source of where they got born from. Like the midos that come in your heart, this is called leda. This is called giving birth. Like a child that's born that goes out of the mother's stomach, then it's its own existence. Therefore, what comes out of this is, what does it mean? Mekupal, folded, that the head is between the knees, which is basically the helem of the seichel, b'midot, and this is called katnut. Okay? V'pirush ibur midot b'seichel di'ima haino derech helem av and yira. So the av and yira is now the helem inside of your mind, inside of your contemplation. And these actually, we see it's two opposite things. So on one hand, we're saying the baby's head is between the knees, so that means the seichel is hidden inside of the midos. And on the other hand, we're saying that the midos are hidden inside of the seichel. So they're opposite things we just explained. So how do you solve this contradiction? Is in parentheses.
It's also, the avelus position is also your head between your knees.
Oh,
so
right.
Fetal.
Ava and Yira represent the two general midos that everything else comes from.
Also receive the ruah.
Okay, so now.
Also to receive the ruah.
Oh yeah, it's that.
It must be connected somehow.
Amidot, good midos.
We're talking about good midos. We're talking about Ava and Yira, so in Kedusha. Okay, so now Shemikan HaSeichel Behelim Kolu Midos. So on one hand, we're having the seichel that's included in the midos, which the midos are the main thing, and the seichel is secondary. And on one is that the midos are inside of the seichel, and the seichel is the main thing, and the midos are secondary. And they're hidden inside of it in a very small way. This is called katnut. It's called smallness. When the intellect is included in the midos, it's called katut amochin. Is when a person small in his moichin, his mind is really in a small state. When the midos are included in the seichel, then you have katnus and midos. Okay, so they're both states of galus. One state is a person, let's say, who's controlled more by his emotions, a very emotional person, but his mind is not meir, so it's like his head is, so to speak, between his knees. That his seichel is now hidden inside of his midos. He has no concept of seichel, just in a state of midos. Some people are the opposite, that the seichel is so big that the midos are so hidden inside of them it doesn't come out to their heart. Okay? It's cerebral experiences.
So they don't have midos?
They do, just very hidden inside of their brain. That's the Indian of Mitzrayim. This one you have the, like what it says in the Priyat Chaim, that we said is the katnut of ibur of za and ima. So you have both states. That basically there's a certain aspect of that's in a small state, which either it's the seichel that's inside of the midos, or it's the midos that are inside of the seichel. But in both cases, one of them is small and vested into the other one, and therefore that's the Indian of Mitzrayim, where it can't come into revelation. When Mashiach comes and all these problems are not here anymore, you think about Hashem, and then you literally, that draws down to your heart, and then it opens up, and you feel like love and fear of God. That's actually the healthy, natural state. But we got galus, we got Mitzrayim that blocks it from happening. So therefore, some people are very intellectual, some are very emotional, and it's hard to have both the things opened up properly because this is the Mitzrayim that we're going through. Okay. Now, what about how do you get to the birth? Leaving Mitzrayim is when you birth it out, and then if someone that's too intellectual, all of a sudden the midos that are inside of his mind actually are able to go out with a strong arm and an outstretched arm, and then it goes into his heart, and boom, he feels expanded in his heart. Or the other way around, okay? So how do you do that? When the midos are born, and they go out to be their own thing. You have small and you got big. Whether in the moichin or in the midos. But the katnus moichin and in the midos, they come together. Ibor, but not the case when it's in a state of ibor, The afapi keshamidas bekatnus behelen. When the midas are small and they're hidden in your intellect, then the seichel mekupal v'kalu b'chin katnus. The whole intellect is also in state of katnus, and that's called tlat go tlat kayadua. Okay, where's that from? The hare shnei b'chin katnus. They both become small. The midas are small because they're included in the moichin of the ima, like you're eating whatever your mother eats. But when the intellect is included in the midas and the intellect is small, then you have it's like you have the intellect of a child. Okay, but when it gets birth, the intellect gets revealed in the midas, and then the moichin grow and the midas grow together. Okay, we're going to give an example. For example, keshatinok mitgadlin midotav im koch sichlo kachanomash. When the child grows his midas, the seichel grows together with it. As it says, lefi sichlo yolel ish. According to the seichel, you should praise a man. But at the beginning, when the child is in the days of the Nika, when he's in he's still breastfeeding, for example, his mind is still very small and it's very concealed. Now, when he drinks the milk, then the moichin and the midas grow together. When the power of his mind rules over his midas, and the seichel becomes the ikar, after the midas grow in accordance with how much a seichel is growing, they are secondary and they go after the seichel. So they only recognize the hitpalut, the excitedness, or how do you say hitpalut in English? Like activation of the mind. And therefore the activation of his midas are included in the mind. Meaning he's excited about intellectual things and the midas are included in that. This is what is called the Gadlut Sheni of Or Abba. Okay, now in the Seder, there's like the Gadlut Rishon, Gadlut Sheni, the Revi, and there's like 4 different Gadluts which are connected to wines. So the Ari talks about it, but here explains what it is. So this concept is called Gadlut Sheni of Or Abba. Is basically, what does that mean? It means when the intellect grows, then the midas that are included in the intellect are having hispalus secondary to the intellect that's having the main hispalus. And this, that the midas grow in accordance with the growth of the seichel, is the gadlut rishon of ima. Okay, I'll say it again. The midas grow in accordance with the growth of the intellect, is the gadlut rishon of ima, as it says in another place, ki merosh tsurim ar'enu. Okay, this is the difference between the closed off mem, that the midas are not felt at all. Raksha seichel noten shehev, just the intellect forces you that you should love the thing. That's the first level. And then the open mem is that the midas are born from the intellect and go out. And the seichel makes it grow. Aval ha-seichel mitzumtzam, but the seichel is contracted. Rak kefi kiyum hamida, only in relation to how much the midah is growing. When the midah grows little by little, and after the growth of the midah, it starts the light of the intellect starts shining in a very big way, and then the midas are secondary to it, which that represents the moichin of Abba that's inside of the midas. Therefore, from this we see that there's 5 levels. Okay, God willing, we'll get this clear. Okay, the first one.
So you're saying that they're interconnected, that the more you grow in midas, the more you grow in seichel, and vice versa?
Alright, but that's all different gadlus you have to get to until you get to the full expression, is where one could come out of the other by being its own entity. Like the ultimate level of Yitzis Mitzrayim, if you go through the Seder and you get all these different types of experiences happening, But the ultimate level is when they both are shining bright, that the intellect, that the shtalshlus, you get the or from the chefetz, which is the or panim, and it shines through the shtalshlus, which means that it goes in the order of the shtalshlus. Therefore, the seichel opens up, and then it understands, thinks about Hashem's greatness, then automatically creates midos, and the midos are in their own full expression on their own. That's how things should work in Ishtalshus, but when we got Mitzrayim, the or got stuck in the Arich Anpin. So we got all these problems going from Paro. So we have to go through the Seder, and each one does a different mechanism. The 4 different godless we discussed. The Arich discusses.
What's driving? The Seichel is driving, or the Midos?
So each one is a different relationship. One of them is that the Midah grows, and then the intellect goes according to that. And one of them is that the intellect grows, and then the Seichel starts coming out a little bit. It says each one has their own kind of situation. So there's 5 levels. The first thing is called Ibur Vitkalut Hamirot Beseichel. Is when the miros are impregnated and included in the intellect, as if they are not in existence yet. Okay? Kivlad bebetin, like a child in the mother's stomach. That's level number 1, okay? Like we contemplate about God, and like you literally, your heart doesn't feel anything. Why does your heart feel anything? Because the midos are just included in your mind. I mean, your mind is having some type of hitpalut, there's some type of excitedness in your mind that's happening, but it's staying in the intellect. But that's enough that you're like, okay, I must love Hashem because of that. But you don't feel it in your heart necessarily. That's the first level, okay? The second one is Yanika. Yanika means breastfeeding. Okay? Okay, so what's the mashal? That the seichel is now breastfeeding the midas. And the midas are growing, and as much as the seichel is giving it milk. Okay? That's level number 2. The third level is the midah is now a small baby. Okay? Bechol metziut shlemuto, in the full expression of its existence, and inside of the baby there shines the or abba. Okay, that's on. By the way, that's on Pesach. We get that madrega when you eat the matzah. Okay, why? Because it says in the Gemara that a child can only speak when he tastes grain. So the concept of eating matzah is that you become that the or abba shines inside you. Why is the or abba? Because it says. No, sorry, it doesn't. It says the child can only call to his father when he eats grain. I think that's what it says, right?
The child
can only call to his father.
He's able to
Abba.
say Abba.
Yeah. So now, when he's saying Abba, well, the explanation is that he knows who his Abba is, but he can't explain to you why, or he can't say, "How do you know this is your father and not this guy?" How do you know? He just knows.
He has das.
No, he has no. You can't explain anything. He's a baby.
Right, but
The baby just knows because the Or Abba is shining into the baby. So that's the Indian.
He's connected to the
Yeah, I think this happens in the matzah. You eat the matzah, the Or Abba now shines into the baby, and you know that this is your father, not someone else, which is, it's a certain recognition of Hashem. Okay, now that's the third level. Okay, the fourth level is the midah shebeor ima atzmo, the midah that's in the or of ima itself. Kmo seichel hamate kal chesed mitzad hasaga v'tam. Like for example, a seichel, you have an idea that goes towards chesed because of a certain understanding and reason, and that's called zayin tachtonin de ima. The 7 lower levels of Ima. Okay, that's level number 4, where basically the child is not only saying, "Oh, this is my father," but he can't say why. He actually, now there's a reason for something. So now that's the reason you went from Chokhmah to Bina, because Bina now you can explain things that you understand, and that's the Indian when it becomes its own existence. Okay, and therefore it takes on a certain identification and reasons for its understanding. And the 5th level is the midah shebeor Abba. Okay, and that's called the Vav Tzavos of Abba, the 6 directions of Abba. What does that mean? Hu seichel hamate kalpei chesed below tam v'asaga. that the intellect that wants to go towards chesed without any reason. Rak shemahut sichlo kach latot lechesed. This is the essence of its intellect, is that it should go towards chesed. And this is called the chesed in the Chokhmah, as it says in another place. Okay, that's an interesting thing. Because basically, as people grow, at one point you do things because there's reasons for it. When you graduate, you don't do it because of the reason anymore. So then it becomes, you connect it more to the essence of the thing itself, and therefore it's connected to essence, and therefore the Or Abba reshines into it after the Or of Ima was previously. Okay? This is explained in another place if you want to know it. Birei Zohar, Daf Resh Yud Gimel discusses it. There's a few places it talks about Torah's Chaim Bereshit, discusses this. A bunch of places it talks about this specific topic. Okay.
What do you mean there is no reason? People do things for no reason.
It says not, but it goes towards chesed. Let's say a person, the way he thinks about things is that he looks at things in a more chesed way, not because a reason for it, because that is.
Oh, reason for chesed.
Yeah. It's Rak shemahut sichlo kachla tot lechesed. He says the essence of that person's intellect is to go in that direction. That's how he sees things. Okay. Lefi zeh tachlit hakadnut shel hamidot kashehem beibor bnei mo, v'tachlit hagdalot shelahem kashehem beor abba. Therefore, the ultimate smallness of the midos is when they're in a state of ibor, they're impregnated. And the tachlis of the gadlus is when they are in the Orb Abba. Okay, now what is that? That is the letters Yam. Okay, Yud is the Chokhmah, that the Midas are included inside of it. And the Otiot, Mem and Yud, when they go out into Leda. As it says in another place, the concept of Mai, the Kaima, the She'ela. As a discussion there what that thing is. So therefore the Yud and the Mem represent the beginning and the end of this process, which means the Mira in its most galus way, and then the Mira in the most Geula way. And this is what it means, Avadim Hayinu lepara b'Mitzrayim. We were servants of power in Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is Mitzar Yam, the Chokhmah, Bebina, is the smallness of the Yam, of Chokhmah, that's inside of Bina. What does that mean? Shamiras, b'bechinat ibur be'ima. The Miras are in a state of impregnancy within Ima. As it says, the Shorish B'nai Israel, B'chinat Zad Atzilus. What is B'nai Israel? Is the Midas of Atzilus. And when the level of the Midas of Atzilus are included in the Or Abba of Atzilus, like a child in the mother's stomach, then we're called Metzar Yam, the smallness of the sea. And then Paro, which represents the Orif, rules over the Jewish people. Why is that? When we have Mochin the Gadlus, expanded consciousness, Azai mekablim b'chinat panim b'panim, we receive face to face in the Pnimius Ratzon, which is Ya'er Hashem panav alecha, as we explained at length. But when the Jews are in a state of Katnus, therefore we receive from the panim of Arif Anpin, as we explained, only from. We don't receive from the panim of Arif Anpin. Only from the Achoraim, which is the Orif, as it says. The Paro Ochez Umanea Bechinat Halida, and this is Avadim Hayinu, which is Anu, represents Bnei Israel that's within Zer Anpin. So now we're getting from the Achoraim of Arich Anpin, and Paro is right there, and therefore we're receiving the Shofar through Paro, who's sitting at the Oref of the Arich Anpin. We're not receiving from the Pnimius because we're not in a state of Mochin the Galus. It's constricted consciousness, therefore the Or that we're saying that originally comes from the Pnimius Ratzon, which is the Panim, doesn't go all the way down. Yeah?
It sounds like Paro is even higher than we are.
No, well, we could really get to the Pnimius. We could get to the Pnimius Keter. But if you're not in an expanded consciousness, and the Pnimius Keter doesn't mayor all the way down. So therefore, when you're in constricted mind, then it restricts the ability from the Chepet to go straight down to Ishtalshtus, because it's constricted. Therefore, Paro takes the Shofar at the level, because he sits at Arif Anpin, and therefore the Shofar goes to Paro.
Diverted through Paro.
Yeah, and we have to receive from there. It's all back-handed stuff, okay?
But But is he actually higher than us, or did just?
Well, we have a higher shorish, but if we're not receiving from that place, because we're not, then it goes in the wrong direction. Okay, we're going to explain out another concept. What does it mean that it draws down from the Achoraim, and why is that the Oref of the Archanpin? Okay, it explains above is when the Shefa comes derech agav, right? We said that the king wanted to make a surah for all the ministers, all the important ministers, and he doesn't want to take even one pruta on the other guys, but he still has to invite them, so they get derech agav, meaning there's tons of food and there's tons of leftovers, so they're gonna get the leftovers. Okay, so this is derech agav. Okay, to explain this more in depth, as is known, Shuir b'chinat Rosh toch sof. There's a concept of Rosh toch sof, which means the head, the middle, the end, and it's called seter. That's the letters Rosh toch sof, Rosh tevas, first and seter. Okay, hem b'chinat gimul kelim pnimim ve'emtzaim ve'chitzonim. There's three types of kelim. There's the panim, emta, and then there's the chitzonim. Means the inner, middle, and exterior. And also in the orot, it says you have three levels. You have the pnimi of the or, the emtzai of the or, and the chitzon of the or. Al derech mashal. Shanu ro'im sheyesh hamshacha pnimis ve'pnimis nefesh. You could have a drawing down of the inner part of your soul. Like, for example, when you're drawing down the letters of machshava, that's a pnimis hamshacha. Okay, now the way the ishtalshus works, let's say a person has a certain feeling or he has a certain desire which comes from a certain pleasure that's inside of him, whether it's good or whether it's bad, and then through that thing it brings about letters in his mind in order to express and to know how to get that desire. So that's called the hamshacha pnimi, because it didn't originally exist in letters. It just existed either in a midah or existed in a ratzon, but ultimately existed in a certain tainug in his soul. And then since he felt that tainug, he had to know how am I going to fulfill it. And then as there was hamshacha from the source of his soul that's feeling that tainug, had to come out until it reached a point in his mind where there are letters in order to tell him how to fulfill that thing. That's hamshacha pnimius. There's another hamshacha called hamshacha chitzonius, from the exterior parts of your soul. For example, words of speech. And then you also have chitzonius, exterior of exterior, and that's called koach hamaise v'tnua, like the action and movement. The kol kochot halelu kli nefesh. All of these powers are part of your soul, and this is called the or, the life force that's drawn down from your nefesh itself. Rak shezeba mikol chayoter pnimi sheba. Just that it comes from a more deeper koach inside of it. And this is the concept of the emtzai, the middle part. And this one comes from the chitzonis nefesh. One comes from the pnimi part of your soul, one comes from the emtzai part of your soul, one comes from the chitzoni part of your soul. And this is the Rosh toch and sof. V'kach yesh b'chinet pnimi v'emtzai v'chitzon b'chol pratei asfiros. In every sphere you have the three levels. V'chol prat b'chinet partuf v'partuf. V'lefize yuvan. Therefore, from this we understand that even at the level of arich anpin, we have a panim and achor and emtzai. So too in the level of zer anpin, shenimshach b'tzalmo, that it draws down from Hashem's image. You also have a panim ba'achor, as it says, achor v'kedem tzartani. Therefore, when the midas of zer anpin are in a state of katnus and a smallness, it must be that the shorish in arich anpin, they only receive from the achorayim arich anpin because they themselves are in katnus. Okay, and this is what is called oref, like a mashal. Hayadua bebeit bnei adam kishomim achor ba'achor zeu ki panu alai oref. For the example is two people when they're standing back to back, as it says, ki panu alai oref. You turned your back to me. Okay, that's the concept of it. So basically, when which means that when the midas are in a state of katnus,